Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to give a few minutes for everyone to just kind of trickle in. And I am going to actually share my slideshow at the beginning of the slide. There we go. As we wait for people to come in, if you all, I know many of you have already completed the pre-survey. You should have gotten a link on how to do that. If you could go ahead and, if you haven't done it, if you can go ahead and complete that pre-survey, that'd be great. We really use this information to, tailor our programs and just kind of make improvements and make them better so that we can better serve you all. A little bit of housekeeping while we wait for a few more people to trickle in. You all are muted. You all also have no videos, a camera showing. If you have a question, you could put it in the Q&A at the very bottom of the screen, or it could be on the side of your screen, depending on what view you're in. Mine is at the bottom of the screen. You'll see a Q&A option. If you click on that, you can type in your question. All attendees will be able to see that question, and we will answer them as soon as we can and as quickly as we can. We may have some time throughout the webinar to answer questions verbally. So if that happens, then I will ask you all to come off of mute, and I will have to give you permission to do that. So you'll see a little window that'll pop up and it'll tell you how to do that. What else? I think I covered everything. So we're gonna wait. I'm gonna wait just one more moment for people to trickle in, and then I am going to go ahead and start the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and start. My name is Marie McIntyre. I am with Farmer Veteran Coalition. Oh, it says the meeting passcode on the calendar invitation was incorrect. Interesting. Paul Marshall is also with Farmer Veteran Coalition. He can provide the passcode. It worked for us, so it's always kind of weird checking out technology, trying to figure it out. You should have all received. I didn't need to enter a passcode. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if we have anybody who trickles in or anybody who reaches out to us that has a hard time logging in. We'll get them that passcode information. But also, we're recording this, so whoever was not able to attend, we will definitely share the video with them after. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I am with Farmer Veteran Coalition. Today you're going to hear from me. I am the grants manager here at Farmer Veteran Coalition. I will do kind of an overview of FAC, kind of what we do. And then you'll hear from Casey Houweling. He is the owner of Houweling's Tomatoes, which is a huge, beautiful factory of greenhouses down in Camarillo. It's amazing what he does down there. You'll see a video of Casey, and he will actually be on the call after the video to answer questions that you might have. So we encourage you throughout the video to enter your questions through the Q&A. We also encourage you to use the chat to talk to one another, but if you have a specific question, please put it in the Q&A so that we can see it and answer it. If you put it in the chat, we might not see it. So please ask questions. If we don't get you the answer here, we will follow up and get you an answer after the webinar. Casey will be followed by Jamie Whiteford, who is a district scientist with the Ventura County Resource Conservation District. Jamie will be sharing resources on essentially how to implement the practices that you're going to learn from Casey, and also other practices, other conservation practices. But before we get started with that, Jeanette Lombardo, our executive director, had some words that she would like to say. So Jeanette, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Marie. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. First of all, good afternoon, and thank everyone. I want to thank you for joining us here at the Farmer Veteran Coalition today as we visit with Casey Houweling at Houweling's Tomatoes. This webinar is one of FEC's work products on our grant with the California Natural Resource Conservation District. Normally, when you think about NRCS grants, they deal with soil and water conservation. And this one does too. This has a different look. Soil and water conservation has a different look with growers using a greenhouse production model. So where you're going to see drip irrigation, you're going to see capturing and storing of water. You're going to see how they follow irrigation schedules. Even though it's different, it's equally as important. And now that as a nation, we're starting to have conversations around climate smart farming. Energy is even more important as we try to be better stewards of our natural resources. So you'll see a lot of our farmers are trying right now to do equipment upgrades to save energy and reduce cost on the farm. Renewable energy produced on farm by solar can replace fossil fuel energy use and stabilize energy costs. So you'll see it here today, Casey, using solar, cogen, and a number of other water recycling. So to enjoy the video. I think you'll find out that greenhouse growing is a very effective use of resources. Casey has about 126 acres of greenhouses there in Camarillo, which equal about 6,000 acres of row crop farming. So if you think about it, really, it's a very effective use of our natural resources. And that's all I wanted to say. Enjoy the work we've put into this for you. Ismarie?
Thank you so much, Jeanette. We appreciate you sharing that. So before we get into Casey's farm and the amazing work that Casey is doing, I'm going to share a little bit about Farmer Veteran Coalition and what we do to support farmer veterans. Before I do that, again, I'm sure a little bit about me. My name is Marie McIntyre. I am an Army veteran. I joined the Army when I was a young little 18-year-old right out of high school. I joined to work on the multiple launch rocket systems. And so if you have no idea what that is, like I did when I joined the Army, it is this machine that you're looking at right there in that picture. So I was a multiple launch rocket systems repair in the Army. I served in the Army for 8 years. I did 2 tours in Iraq. I drove convoys in Ramadi, Baghdad, and Fallujah. That was fun times, interesting times. And I currently live in Woodland, California, which is just a little bit northwest of Sacramento with my 3 children and my husband. My husband's also an Army veteran. He was in the 82nd Airborne Division, and he actually got injured in Afghanistan. It was on his 4th deployment. He stepped on an IED and lost both of his legs. So I've been a caregiver for him for about 10 years now. We've been fortunate enough to do some advocacy work for veterans and caregivers in Washington, D.C. And my husband found his new purpose as a beekeeper here in Woodland. And so we're very tied into the farmer veteran community, and we've actually been really tied into FEC long before I started working here. So very happy to be here. So for those of you who don't know Farmer Veteran Coalition, because we do have a good mix of veterans and non-veterans on the call, Farmer Veteran Coalition is a national nonprofit. We've been around for over 10 years now. And we operate on 2 primary beliefs. The first being that veterans possess the unique skills and abilities needed to be successful in agriculture. And also that ag offers purpose and opportunity and physical and psychological benefits to the veteran. Not to say that farming is easy, as I'm sure everyone on this call is aware, it's not easy. There are many challenges to overcome, but we do believe that it is a way for veterans to find purpose. And for those times when it's not so easy, we like to serve as a resource to the veterans to help them get through those times. We are a membership organization. We have over 35,000 members in all 50 states. We represent all branches of the military, and our membership is free. It's entirely free. We don't have membership dues or membership application fee or anything like that. And some of the services that we provide to our members are career counseling. A lot of times we'll get phone calls from veterans who don't really know if they want to get into ag. They think they might, or we have veterans who have been farming for many years, even before military service. We like to provide career counseling for veterans who want to get into agricultural careers, business planning for veterans who want to start a farm business. We provide financial resources for veterans who need financial assistance, mentorship opportunities through our state chapters and through our other farmer veteran members. We offer training, apprenticeships, and internship opportunities. And of course, we have our membership discounts, which hopefully if you're a Farmer Veteran Coalition member, you're aware of these discounts. And if not, you can reach out to our support team and we'd be happy to provide that information to you. But we have some significant discounts there. But we essentially just meet the veterans where they're at. So whether you've been farming for years or you aren't even really entirely sure if you want to get into farming, but you're thinking about it, we are a resource for you, and we are happy to connect with you and kind of talk you through all that. One of our two primary programs that we have is our Homegrown by Heroes label. So this is the official farmer veteran branding label of America. And it pretty much certifies that a product is grown by a veteran. So if you see that logo that you see on these beautiful pictures on the screen, that means that if you see that logo on a product, that means that product is grown by a veteran. And so we really, if you want to support veterans in your area, you can go to our website, and we actually have a map where you can identify Homegrown by Heroes products. So please check that out. And if you are a farmer veteran who is who has a product who wants to apply for the Homegrown by Heroes label, you can go to our website and there's information on how to apply there. We essentially represent more than 2,400 veterans carry our Homegrown by Heroes label. And we have a new agreement with Market Maker to essentially help HBH producers sell their products. So we're very excited about that partnership. Another primary program that we offer is our Farmer Veteran Fellowship Fund. This is the application rolls around once a year, and it's a small grant ranging from $1,000 to $5,000 to purchase farm equipment. We've awarded $3.5 million over the course of since we had the program going since 2011, and that has supported over 800 farmer veterans. So really excited about that. Our application did close February 14th for this year. We are hoping to award close to $500,000 in 2022. So we're really excited about that as well. It will reopen again toward the beginning of next year. So please just keep that in mind whenever you know a farmer veteran that they can apply for this fellowship fund and get some equipment purchased for them. Another program that is associated with the fellowship fund is our partnership with Kubota. It's our Gear to Give program. And we've been very grateful for Kubota's partnership in this, where we get to provide equipment to farmer veterans. And we give 5 pieces of equipment through the Gear to Give program each year to a farmer veteran that applies for the fellowship fund. And we've awarded 31 pieces of equipment to Farmer Veteran Coalition members. So we're very grateful to Kubota for that wonderful partnership. And if you've ever purchased a tractor like we have at our home, it is a huge, huge purchase. So very grateful to Kubota for that. Our annual stakeholders conference. I know some of you who are familiar with Farmer Veteran Coalition have been to these conferences. They're really amazing. It's a really great collaboration of farmer veterans and you know, USDA, people who work at the USDA, non-veterans who want to support veterans. It's just a really great combination of a whole group of people that are just there to support farmer veterans. Our conference will be in Oklahoma City this year. Registration is not open yet, but stay tuned to our social media. And if you're a member, you'll get an email about when registration is open. And that'll be November 13th through the 15th. Okay, so last but not least, I'm going to show you real quickly how to sign up for membership if that's something you're interested in. If you're not a member, you do not have to be a veteran to apply for membership. We do have what is called an associate membership, which is essentially for non-veterans. The only difference there is you do not get the discount partnerships because those are specifically for farmer veterans. But if you want to stay tuned to what we have going on, please sign up for membership. The way you do that is you go to our website and you'll see the join, the little join word up there on the top left side of the screen. If you click on that, it'll take you to what you see down here in the bottom right. And that's where you click veteran or not a veteran, and you can sign up for FVC membership. All right, so that's it for this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our support team at support@farmbetco.org. And the phone number's on the screen there. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat, but for the sake of time, I am going to answer any questions after I start the video for Casey Houweling's. So let me share the video. We're very excited to have Casey sharing all the work that he's doing on his farm. Let me see. All right, if you have any questions while I share this video, if you have any questions, please let me know. You can type them in the chat and we will definitely get you an answer.
Farming for like almost ever. So I'm 63 right now, and I quit school when I was 50 because I thought, you know what, you don't need school to be a farmer. It's kind of wrong. Like not a little bit wrong, but a lot wrong. So I've made a number of mistakes in my life, and I think you know what you really want to do is you want to make as little few mistakes as you can as margins get tougher in ag and as you go along. But to give you a bit of history, my parents immigrated from Holland in 1958. My parents immigrated in 1951 from Holland, which is a lot of post-war war people moved after the war was over. It's kind of like there was a period there where everyone was living at war for 5 years, and then the war's over. Now, what do we do next? Devastated country, poor economy, everything else. So a lot of Dutch people at that time moved to Canada. My parents ended up in the west coast of Vancouver, and he started landscaping because they left Holland with no money. My dad's dad, he had a company in Rotterdam. Well, the center of Rotterdam got blown out. The whole company went to basically nothing left after the war. So it was time, you know. Anyways, my parents ended up over there, and he started landscaping. And one of the guys who he was landscaping for financed him to buy some property out in Langley, about half-hour drive away from Vancouver. So that's how he got started. He got started because of the goodwill of someone who seen potential in someone else, and that was really the beginning. So bought some property. There was a small greenhouse on it. Built a few more. When I grew up basically in the floral industry, because that's what my dad was doing at that time. We did a few tomatoes and a few other things to begin with, but at the end of the day, it turned out to be more of a bedding plant, poinsettias, and that kind of stuff. And it grew over time. I grew up with it. My dad tells me the story of when I was 3 years old, and he was in the garden showing me how to weed, how to pull the weeds. So he tells me that I said to him, "Is this a weed? Is this a carrot? Is this a weed? Is this a carrot?" So I got it right, and he never had to say it again. So that's kind of the thing about farming too. It's got to be in your blood. So if it's like anything, if you're passionate about something, you're gonna have much better chance of being successful, because you got to put in way too many hours. You got to put in way too many effort to make something like that happen, particularly if you're starting with nothing. Unless you have somebody financing, and you can see right here behind me this is a greenhouse, so this is a big greenhouse, and this was built over, I've been working at this for well over 50 years. So that is really how long it does take sometimes. And I've made some big mistakes. I've made some right mistakes. As long as you make more right decisions than you do wrong decisions, that's really the end of the day. And you have to be used to fluctuating markets, competitive nature of ag, unpredictability. So it's you have to be able to, go with the punches too, and regardless, whatever kind of ag you're in, whether it's, you're exposed to the open field or weather or rain or whatever else it is. I mean, that's the beauty of being in a greenhouse like this. The disadvantage of a greenhouse is it's very expensive to build. The greenhouse like we're sitting in right here is between $1.5 to $2 million an acre of investment. So this particular greenhouse we're sitting in right now is 20 acres. This site has 125 acres on it. So you can kind of figure out the math, and you have to be a big producer in today's world, because Walmart carries a huge percentage of the marketplace, and if you want to sell to Walmart, they're not going to look at you unless you've really got some muscle behind what you can and can't do. One of the biggest sins in produce is shorting a customer. So you have to have ways how to do this. This is a year-round facility. We can produce year-round because we're in Southern California. Now, up in our Canadian facility up there, you need supplemental lighting to make it work. So, one size or one model doesn't fit everywhere in North America, because you got different climatic issues, you need different designs, you've got different temperatures. But I got out of the floral industry years and years ago. I think that would have been around 2000. I was in partnership with my brother, and I bought him out at that time. I sold off the floral side, and I just stuck to the vegetable part of the industry, and just continued on where we now produce long English cucumbers, mini cucumbers, tomatoes, all kinds of specialty tomatoes, et cetera, and retail in a number of chains. One of the things too you gotta really think about when you're doing it is who's going to do your marketing if you're going to do it yourself. Completely different skill set to do marketing than it is to be a farmer. And the other thing too is that sophistication levels continue to go up. And I think 10 years from now, all this is somehow going to have to be robotic. Because if it's not, all our high labor content crops are going to Mexico. Because their cost of labor is like a fraction of what it is here in the U.S. and they have full access to our marketplace. So those are other things you got to keep in mind. Where is the industry going to go? And not only, particularly when you're making big investments, where is it going to be not only next year, but 10 years and even 20 years out in the future? Very difficult to predict. But you really have to have some foresight to do that. You need the tenacity to stick with it. So it doesn't get any easier as you move forward. We look at what's going on right now with energy and everything else, and I think we haven't done a very good job of what we're doing as far as being energy efficient and everything. And this greenhouse really should be next to a power plant or something or any other factory where there's lots of waste heat. So we built a facility out in Utah on a power plant, uses the heat off the stack of the power plant. So those are the kind of things that you want to do, and I would classify that as low-hanging fruit, because we in our agricultural planning and everything, we really haven't done a very good job at that, and the government has done a really poor job of taking that low-hanging fruit and using it first. We can't rely on wind energy. We can't rely on solar because we need heat 24/7. So if we're on next to a waste plant, whether it's a steel mill or whatever it is, those are the kind of opportunities you got to look at, and it's difficult to do because it's not really a standard practice. And usually those power plants or the manufacturing facilities or whatever that produce heat are in industrial areas where the land is way too expensive. You need to be next to it. So there is opportunities, but I'd sure like to see the federal government primarily really say we've missed the boat on this one. So it's never too late. You got to start somewhere. But if we want to keep on going and we want to reduce our footprint CO2 wise, these are the kind of things you got to do. That's the low hanging fruit. You'd be either zero emissions. You're actually using CO2 because this crop needs CO2. So fossil fuels to get CO2. If you don't add CO2 into a greenhouse, and within 1 hour on a day like this where you got sunshine, you'll go from 1,000 ppm down to 200. And at 200, plant stops growing because it needs, the CO2 is the biggest fertilizer there is. So it's the main building block of any plant. So that's, you got to keep that in mind, that, you know, all field ag uses CO2 also in growing. A lot of people don't really understand that, but that's where the oil originally comes from. The oil, the coal, and natural gas is all coming from plant matter. So you're just kind of recycling it in some ways. Yeah, and today's consumer doesn't think of seasonality either. So, you know, they're going to go shopping at Christmas or January when it's -20 and want to buy tomatoes and strawberries. Well, guess what? You know, 20 years ago, those weren't available. So we've got to change the way we produce and the way we react, because, you know, if we don't start being competitive on that side, we're going to be relying more and more on foreign imports. We certainly don't want to do that. We're seeing that in the volatility in the world right now. I was last August, I went up to Alaska. I got an invite there to go and speak at a conference, an energy conference. And what they wanted to do in Alaska is they want to start growing more of their own food. They only produce 2% of their own food. And during COVID, when they had some transportation problems, they had no vegetables there, no fresh vegetables. The store shelves went empty. So they're putting a big push on doing it. So I was asked to speak at a energy conference up there. So the guy calls me up and says, "My name's Bernie." I said, "Okay, that's good." He says, "I want you to come up here and speak at an energy conference. I'm going to fly you and your wife up here first class, and I'm going to give you the time of your life." Well, he sure did. My wife didn't come with me. She wanted to stay home with the horses. But I took a good friend of mine and spoke at the conference, and then we went over to look at what the facility is that they had built up there just in Sheena Hot Springs up in Alaska. And the whole facility there is 30 miles off the grid. It all runs on geothermal. Built a big igloo so he doesn't have to redo the ice sculptures every year. And, you know, huge facility that was just incredible of what you really can do if you want to do it. So what he wants to do is he's developing another geothermal plant to produce electricity off the steam that comes out of it, and supply the power to run this island. The island's called Unalaska, which is where Dutch Harbor is, so, or often referred to as the show The Wildest Catch. 60% of U.S. fish get caught in that area up there in the Bering Sea. So that was really, really interesting, beautiful area. And then to have a look and see what the potential is of how you could build a greenhouse up there on, once again, just renewable energy, and do the whole thing in some pretty formidable climates. It can be done. Iceland does it, you know. So there's all these kind of possibilities that we can really do, but it needs to be a new focus. I don't believe we've done a very good job, like I've mentioned before, in focusing on the stuff that really completely cuts out the carbon capabilities. So let me just explain the system a little bit here that you're seeing. So how do we grow here? What's different? You see these tubes down here. This is humidity control. Heat comes through here. CO2 comes through this tube. This is a pressurized greenhouse, so it's a greenhouse that was developed by myself and several engineers, which we own the patent on it. So basically, what it gives us the ability to do to almost grow anywhere in the world, in deserts or wherever. So this is often referred to hydroponics. It's not really hydroponics. It's growing in substrate. We grow in coconut fiber, which is coconut shells, and that's what the plant really grows in. Every plant has its own dripper irrigation to it. And it's all the excess water that comes out of here is recirculated. So there's no agricultural runoff. There's 100% usage of the water we bring in. It all goes to the plant. During that recycling process, it gets sterilized and it gets refed. So what you do really need though is very high quality water. Very efficient water use. Use a fraction of what a field farm would have to use to produce the kind of tomatoes that you produce a year, the volumes. And you could talk about 4% or 5% of the water consumption of a standard field, but that makes a difference on how long crops are and everything else. But it's hugely good from an environmental perspective. It's once again, it's expensive to do all this kind of stuff. You need the right kind of filtration systems. You need the right kind of water sterilization process. So if you do have a disease somewhere, that you don't spread it all over the place. The other thing that we do here is, every tomato plant we grow is grafted. So you got a strong rootstock underneath, which is not used in the field, but these plants will last for 1 year. They'll grow up to 40 feet long and just continuously produce tomatoes. So you can see the flowers at the top. So when you got a flowering cluster, and about 8.5 weeks later, it's at the bottom where you pick it. So that's about how long it takes from flower to pick in a tomato. And it's the people that work here, they're doing the same job, 12 months out of the year. So it's consistent production basis. So the other thing is we collect all the roof water. We utilize that for irrigation purposes. We're working on some other projects right now so that when we remove this, to find out better ways to remove the sodium out of the water, which is really important, because even if your sodium levels are not toxic, they will be if you keep recycling, because plants don't take them up, and the sodium level will keep building up higher and higher and higher. So that brings to issues that they're having in Central Valley and some other areas where the salinity keeps building up over years and years and years. So there is solutions to it, but once again, it's expensive. But I think if it's done properly, you can really minimize the amount of fertilizer you're going to use. You can reduce a lot of costs there, especially right now. Fertilizer prices are going, they're doubling in some cases. And you can produce more, because when you got the right nutrients, you don't have sodium in your water, everything grows better. So I can see a lot of benefits coming up. Is that going to happen quickly? This kind of change is going to take a long time, and it's going to take a lot of things the government's going to need to do and really look at how are you going to crop all this stuff. So it's not possible to do it in every crop, but I can see a lot of this stuff ending up happening. Whether it's going to take 10, 20, or 30 years, I don't know about that, but it's a lot of things can be learned and what can be done inside a greenhouse, and I think utilize those out in field for field production in one way or the other. We do that on this facility. This is done with cogeneration. So we actually use natural gas to run an internal combustion engine. We generate electricity, sell the electricity into the grid, utilize the heat to heat the greenhouse and the CO2 that comes off of the cogen unit. We utilize inside the greenhouse. So that's like you're running over 100% efficiency on some of this equipment compared to when Edison has a power plant or something. Some of these run as low as 30%. So if you combine a lot of those kind of things, you can really come up with a very, very sustainable future. But once again, it's expensive. So that's the whole thing, is how do you fund all those kind of things and come up, and you're not going to do it overnight for sure. And there's a lot of risk, because there's one thing about this is there's a lot of knowledge in here. You just can't go out and build a greenhouse and expect it to take off and do this. You need good labor organization. You need really good financial cost controls. You need good growers that know their nutrients and what to do in certain cases. There's all biologicals in here. As you can see, the bees that are flying around here, that's for pollinating. and there's biologicals around in here to go against whitefly or any other pest that's out there. So you're kind of creating your own biosphere inside, and you want to maintain that. Keep the outside stuff out, because we're in an agricultural area here. When the neighbor decides that it's time to pick his crop or harvest his crop, any bug that's in there, it's going to look for a new place to go. So that's, those are some of the things that you have to try and prevent. So the other thing, is marketing. You got to find a good way to get your product out to the customer. And not everyone needs to be big farmers like this. If you want to have a farmer's market, you want to supply that. There's opportunities there. There's organic opportunities, but they have to be well executed, and you can't make too many mistakes, because it is a competitive world out there. Just going to go down a walkway here. It's 125 meters long, so that's about 350 feet. Here's bumblebees. That's we bring these in for pollination purposes. And lots of people ask, well, why use bumblebees? Well, bumblebees don't mind tomatoes. Honeybees don't like tomatoes because there's not enough honey on them. So as you go along here, you can see this is the coconut shells. You see the root systems in here. So in here, if you look at a plant like this, you can kind of see the process on top there. You can see the flower on top, and then you can see it get bigger and bigger and bigger, the sizes as you move down. It's about a week apart. Every week produces a cluster. So then every week, then you get down the bottom here, and this is what you harvest. So that's it. That's the process. How this works. There's hooks at the top where all the plants get lowered, and then one of these plants will be about 40 feet long at the end of its growth. So underneath here is the tube. This is the tube in tube, so that you have very good uniformity on the distribution of the air coming out of here. So basically, the plant at the other end that mixes air, outside air with inside air, can add humidity, can add CO2, can add cooler temperatures if necessary. So this is really quite a highly technical greenhouse on being able to create the kind of environment that really produces the maximum output. Yeah, gives you the tools. But I always compare tools kind of like with a Maserati versus a Volkswagen. Anybody can drive a Volkswagen, but not anybody can drive a Maserati. And this greenhouse here is a Maserati type where you can really control a lot of things. But the more you can control, the more you need to know. So if you're outside, you're going outside, and maybe you can't do anything about it. If it's windy, you can't do anything about it. So a lot of the things that have to do with nature, we control nature because it's a completely enclosed environment. There's also energy screen at the top, so in the wintertime, if it gets cold, you can actually close the curtain up there to reduce energy consumption. So once these get older, they start to see this right here. They start to get yellow. This means it's prime, so you take those leaves out with the leaf or energy. One of these leaves really is a factory. It absorbs CO2 through the stomata. It takes the water, evaporates it through, so you need that the heat or the radiation from the sun to force transpiration, which brings the water and the fertilizer up to the leaves. And then the sun shines on the leaves, and it's like a factory. It makes sugar out of all those things. And then the sugar goes back to producing tomatoes, producing. That's its energy source. A lot of people also ask, well, why don't taste as good as they used to? One of the things is that we have to produce a product that lasts for 2 weeks. If you grow a tomato in your garden, and it doesn't have to shut one. We do have varieties that are really good tasting, but they produce a lot less because sugars is energy. So So the better the taste is, the less kilos you produce. So it's a balance. Where the fans are that go through the mixing station up there, which is part of the package of what we developed. Important to have pressurized because then and it when you have normal passive vents, the hot air, the cold air have to go in the same hole. That's not very efficient. So in a greenhouse like this, we only need 4% of the ventilation capacity that you put in a passive greenhouse. So you use less CO2, you get less of it escapes. You can have better control of your humidity. Right now, we have Santa Ana, which is very fine wind, humidity is 10% outside, but we can have 100% as far as humidity is concerned. Right now, humidity in here is probably about 65–70%. To what you want to do. Will just blow itself. So once this crop reaches about 1 year age, we have to replace it. So you take the old crop out, all the green waste goes to local farmers where it gets spread on the land to rejuvenate soil. Tomatoes that aren't perfect, they end up going to the cows. Cows love tomatoes, by the way. And so we try and utilize whatever we can. The cocoa fiber gets recycled. It goes into you can use it in lemon orchards or whatever else it is. It's really good soil amendment that enhances the soil. And of course, we still do have, there's some plastic in here that has to go to recycling, but there's not really enough recycling facilities around. So, but we try and keep that all down to a minimum to minimize our footprint on whatever we're doing. So that's kind of wraps up this part of it, I think. And I just want to encourage everyone to get out there and do something. If you're passionate for farming, there's opportunities within this sector, and it doesn't necessarily have to be greenhouse. It could be dairy, it could be field farming, it could be a whole bunch of other stuff. But maybe if you're real nice to Bill Gates, you might like to use some of his land. So, but you'd have to speak real nicely to him. So, yeah, I welcome this being able to share some of these things with you, and I wish everyone out there great success. And I want to thank you for what you've done for this country, for protecting it. We're starting to learn once again how important the Army is, the veterans have been at adding and keeping us all safe. Our democracy is so incredibly important that we protect it. And thank you all for doing your part there. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate Casey allowing us to get a glimpse into all of the work he's doing. And I didn't see if there were any, I know that the audio was pretty bad on that video. What I will do is I will make sure that everyone who has registered for the event gets a copy of the video so you all can watch it at your leisure. I believe we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel as well, so we can share that information with you all now. Sorry about that audio. Did we have any questions? Paul, I'm not sure. I wasn't able to view the chat, so I didn't see if there's any questions. Oh, it looks like we had one from Kevin, which Jeanette and Paul was able to address, so that's awesome. All right, Casey, did you have anything you wanted to share with us at all?
Yeah, no, I think the video pretty well laid it out. So I thought it was pretty well done. So I don't know if there's anyone that wants to ask a question or whether they look at the video at their own time, and then maybe we set a date later on where people that want to have some discussion, we can do that. That's a possibility too.
Absolutely, we can definitely facilitate that. It does look like Robert Kenko has a question. It says, are there any vendors for water conditioning and reusing that you can recommend?
No,
Local to Ventura.
I don't know any people that know how to do that. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, you know, there's a number of them, but there's a newer technology coming out right now where you can virtually reclaim like 98-99% of your water when you take it through.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a whole ton of things that can be done to improve water quality. And, you know, there's a lot of work getting done on that. The problem is like everything else, it's expensive.
Right.
But, you know, sometimes expensive doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. And I would really like to see a point where we get some good data, you know, to the government and they start supporting some stuff, because salination of land, you know, is going to be a big problem unless we address it. And there's methods to do it out there right now. But, you know, you got to have the kind of support behind it to be able to do it.
Right.
You know, as you heard in my, in the video that you've seen, I think, you know, the real problem we have in our government right now, and I might say this, and people might not think I'm being politically correct, but I think it's primarily driven by lobbyists, and lobbyists don't always push for the right things. So in this case, you know, what I said about reclamation of heat, and, you know, we've missed out on the low hanging fruit. And I think we got the same thing in water. We really need to have some people pull together and say, this is what we need to do. If we're going to continue in ag, and we're going to continue in ag for 100 years, where our kids are going to be, you know, in the future, we got to start looking at life a little differently. And, you know, we're not doing it. We're not doing it right, from my opinion. Now, I'm just one of the guys on the outside, and you know, I don't have lobbying powers and all that other kind of stuff. But I mean, I think if we get enough people to start thinking about it, then, you know, we can do it.
Okay, great. When we have time for one more question from Joffrey Hollenbach, what is your experience with PAA?
PAA. What the heck is that, first of all?
All right, Joffrey, if you can type in the chat the acronym. I was in the Army, we had a ton of acronyms.
The Americans love acronyms, and I think they do it to keep us Canadians like out in the dark or something. It's universal, keep us dumb, I guess. I don't know. I'm just joking, of course. I'm in a little bit of a good mood because I just had a new son-in-law this morning. So,
wow.
not a son-in-law, sorry, a grandson.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's all we have for you, Casey. It looks like we have one more question that I'm going to actually connect with you offline.
Sure.
It's more about someone who's looking for some advice on filtration systems. So we'll connect with that offline. Oh, it looks like peracetic acid is what Joffrey was asking about.
Ah. So what does he want to know about it? How to use it or what?
Well, Joffrey, how about you follow up? I'll put my email address in the chat and you can follow up with me about this, and we will, if you have specific questions, we'd be happy to get you an answer.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds like good. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Yep. Bye.
Okay, so I know in that video with Casey, we heard a lot about how some of these conservation practices can be rather expensive to implement. Well, there are a lot of benefits to implementing them. The question is, how do you fund it? So what we're hoping to answer that question with Jamie Whiteford's presentation. Jamie has a PhD in soil and water science. He has been with the Resource Conservation District since 2011, and he has managed numerous projects related to soil health, climate change, and agriculture. And Jamie will be sharing information about how your local conservation district can help fund some of these conservation practices that you saw in Casey's video, but also many others. So I will be sharing, it is another video. Hopefully the quality is a little bit better. But if not, you will all get this at the end of the event. I'll be happy to share these videos with you. So let me share Jamie's video.
Hello, everyone. Give me a moment while I get everything set up here. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Probably should switch. Hold on one second. This one there. Okay, so hopefully this one will show up. So hi everybody. Sorry for me just talking to myself. My name is Jamie Whiteford. I am the district scientist with the Ventura County Resource Conservation District, and I want to thank the veteran farmers for inviting me to speak, and apologize that I can't be there in person. I actually have a field event scheduled for tomorrow. I'll try to join by call from the field, but in lieu of being able to present, I thought that probably the best thing to do would be just provide a Zoom recording. I hope that you find it useful. So my name is Jamie Whiteford. I'm the district scientist of the Ventura County Resource Conservation District. A lot of what I'm going to discuss, while it is going to be kind of specific to the Ventura County Resource Conservation District, I'm hoping that a lot of the information will actually also translate to your area. And there's a lot of overlap between what I'll discuss here and the resources available wherever it is that you farm. So as I said, my name is Jamie Whiteford. I'm the district scientist here at the Ventura County Resource Conservation District. And my goal today is really just to introduce you to your local RCD, and by virtue of that, hopefully introduce you to a broad spectrum of resources available to you. And there we go. All right. So I outlined the presentation that I'll be giving today. I just want to give a brief introduction to myself and my district, and then I want to talk about RCD structure and partners that we work with, overview of our mission, overview of our priorities, sort of introduce some projects we work on. Then I want to get into funding opportunities that you should be aware of, and then next steps that help us help you. So about me, I've been 10 years, well, 11 years now, I guess, with the district. My work focuses on ag projects and ag-related research, which actually covers a great deal of stuff, because ag lands, in addition to doing, traditional agriculture, they also are land stewards, and they do a lot of carbon farming. They do a lot of other things that isn't just related to food production. I've got a background in soil and water science from University of California, Riverside, and I am a proud husband of a wonderful, beautiful wife and father of a former Marine. Did 4 years now, is seeking his associate's degree, and then my youngest is a welder. So a very proud family of young sons who made good choices. About us, so the Ventura County RCD was considered a local unit of government. And this is true for all resource conservation districts. And we're considered a local unit of government under the Public Resources Code of the state of California. The Ventura County Resource Conservation District isn't alone in this distinction. That we're one of about 100 RCDs, and all of RCDs are sort of under the guidance, if you will, of a larger California Association of RCDs that kind of handles some of the lobbying on the RCD's behalf, and also some large-scale block grants that they can apply for that then can be used for other local RCDs. So as a local unit of government, that doesn't mean that we have any specific regulatory authority or anything like that. RCDs are not able to tell you what to do. We are only able to assist you in whatever it is that you want to do. So a little bit about our RCD. We're a special district like all RCDs. We have a certain jurisdiction, if you will. In our case, our jurisdiction is a mirror of our county's boundaries. So within our county's boundaries, we are able to pursue the activities that support our mission, and our mission is in resource conservation. And I'll get into that a little bit later. The role of the RCDs as it fits within the partners, such as funders and such as landowners, is a critical one. So you as landowners, whether you're a farmer, in your case, or whether it's a city, or whether it's other, NGO who has a resource concern that they'd like to address, y'all could apply for funding. And in many cases, you should apply for funding directly from funders that might be giving you technical or financial assistance to be able to mitigate whatever that issue or challenges that you have. And as a landowner or as an NGO, could go to funders at the local or the state or the federal level. But oftentimes, seeking funding is time consuming, and the process could be a little bit convoluted. And so it can, be a barrier to landowners efficiently and effectively accessing those resources. So that's sort of where the RCDs come into play. So RCDs are, at least in the case of the Ventura County RCD, funded entirely by grants, well, almost entirely by grants. We have a small stipend from our county because they like to support our work. But we go after grants that we then administer and provide to landowners or other organizations so that they can achieve the work that they need to do. So the way it works is that landowners will typically come to the RCD because the RCD as local unit of government has the authority and the capacity to go after funding that's provided by local, state, or federal level agencies. And the reason that landowners often come to us to work with them is because, you know, we work in their area, so we're known to them. We've worked with, you know, landowners for a long time. You know, our district has been around for 70 years or so, and even longer than that, actually. And so we're trusted because you know, we worked with all of these individuals or organizations, and you know, over the time that we've sort of done what the district does in terms of implementing projects or seeking funding for projects, we've learned how to go about it efficiently and effectively, and so we're capable in being able to secure funding for whatever those priorities are. So the way it normally works is RCDs will work with landowners to apply for funding, and then that funding will then be funneled to the landowners to support whatever their needs are. And then, of course, the RCD is supported by being able to administer that grant on behalf of the landowner. In terms of sort of our internal structure, as district scientist, I'm considered an RCD staff. So my role is to work directly with partners, work directly with farmers, and identify what those resource needs are, and then find an appropriate grant that would provide assistance, and then write the grant along with the landowner. And then once the grant is funded, assuming it is, then we would implement the project that the landowner was seeking to get funding or technical assistance with. However, staff answers to our executive director. So our executive director handles sort of the grant administration as well as the fiscal matters, so invoicing and things like that. And then both staff and the executive director will answer to our board of directors. We have 7 directors. Our board is comprised of landscape architects, researchers, and then ranchers and farmers. So our board of directors are either appointed by the board of supervisors or they are elected. And they all are, you know, local to our area, so that, you know, they're serving their communities that they're embedded within. In terms of our partners that we work with, this is quite a busy slide, but all I meant to demonstrate here is that, you know, on the local, on the state and the federal side, we work with all kinds of different conservation partners as well as funders. So, you know, locally we work with Farm Bureau, we work with University of California Cooperative Extension, you know, we work with land trusts, etc. At the state level, we work with funders like the Wildlife Conservation Board, the state of California, the Department of Conservation, state of California, you know, California Department of Food and Agriculture, California Fire Safe Councils, etc. And then at the state level, I mean, at the federal level, we work with, you know, again, a number of different partners. Examples include like the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, EPA. The point being is that we work with a number of different funders. And so again, it goes back to being capable and aware of opportunities that might be useful for you in mitigating whatever issue you may have or in achieving whatever goals you may have. I want to kind of talk about a particular project that fits within our mission. But first, I'll go ahead and just read our mission statement. So our mission is to collaborate with landowners, government agencies, and willing partners to facilitate the conservation and restoration of Ventura County's natural resources for current and future generations. This is our mission statement, but it's going to be very similar to the mission statements for all the other 109 RCDs in California. And I want to talk about this particular project. So there's a map that you see in front of you. This is a project that the landowner, has been a partner of ours for quite some time. And our relationship goes way back, but most recently we worked with them to secure a number of different funding opportunities. And so I kind of want to walk through them because they're relevant to this audience, I think. So several years back, we started working with them to secure funding. And what they were doing at the time is they were converting some of their area from intensely cultivated row crop over to organic avocado. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to apply for funding so that they could protect their new avocado trees from wind damage. And so they worked with us and we applied for funding through the California Department of Food and Agriculture's Healthy Soils program. And the goal there was to secure funding so that that money could be used to put in a windrow. So we got that funding for them, so they were able to put in 2 windrows of native willows to help protect their new trees from wind damage. After that was secured, we followed that up with an additional application to a separate funder. We applied to the Department of Conservation, and the goal seeking funding through the Department of Conservation was to put in additional pollinator habitat, keeping in mind, again, that this is an organic avocado operation. So we secured funding through the Department of Conservation to put in pollinator habitat. So these were native flowering species, ranging from annuals, such as milkweed, up to perennials, such as toyon, etc. And these were to complement the windrows. So we, in addition to the hedgerow plantings, we also sought funding to improve the irrigation system. Specifically, we wanted to replace their filter station and upgrade their plumbing to the filter station, because in order for us to support both the willows and the hedgerows, we needed to have adequate irrigation, and specifically, we wanted to avoid any plugging in the system. So we wanted a new filter. This is from groundwater, relatively shallow groundwater, and so we were able to get that funding for them, and so they got some significant upgrades to their irrigation system in addition to the hedgerow planting. And then to follow that up, we saw an additional need for further irrigation improvements, storage tanks, pump improvements, etc. So we applied to the California Department of Food and Agriculture SWEEP program, which is the State Water Efficiency and Enhancement Program, and we were able to secure funding for that. So they'll be able to put in some soil moisture sensors so they can track the irrigation, and they also will get further improvements to the irrigation system beyond what was provided through the Department of Conservation. So this is just, I think, a great example of how things can stack, and if you work with the Resource Conservation District and you have a vision for what it is you would like to see, the goals you'd like to see your operations achieve, then we can go about doing that by finding adequate funding resources to help achieve those goals. I want to go over some of the other projects we have that align with the RCD's mission, and particularly our strategic priorities. And the reason I do this is I want to do this is because RCDs do a lot of different things, and again, I'm focused on agriculture because that's simply where I fit in best at this particular district, and I have colleagues who do restoration, etc. We all work together, but in this kind of there's so much work to be done that it's good to have a sort of a more of a focus. And so my focus is on agriculture, but we do a whole bunch of different things beyond that. So our priorities are water resources, fire preparedness, soil and climate resilience, invasive and resistant species, land resource management, and wildlife habitat. These are just bullet points that are pulled out of our 5-year strategic plan. And ultimately, you don't see that these will deviate much in the future. But this sort of bullet list of strategic priorities is going to mirror what many of the RCDs are seeking to do, are already doing, and it sort of establishes our goals. And with these goals in mind, then we have projects that we go after to sort of address these priorities. So we have a program that helps landowners with irrigation and nutrient management goals. We have projects that will help harden the landscape to protect structures or landscapes against wildfires. We're interested in how practices that occur on ag lands impact climate. So, is there carbon sequestration going on? Is there greenhouse gas emissions going on? We're interested in ensuring that we eliminate invasive and resistant species so we can reduce pesticide use. And we have a particular focus on a flammable invasive weed that uses a lot of water in riparian areas, and that's a rhododendron. So we have a very robust program of trying to eliminate that from our watersheds. We want to make sure that we do enough research to be able to see what are good practices. And so, in our land resource management priorities, we're looking at what kind of stewardship practices can happen to protect against erosion or to protect against, leaching of nutrients and water quality impacts. And then wildlife habitat is also important and is one of our priorities. So in addition to the pollinator habitat that we discussed earlier, we are also doing, more specific things like Monarch, overwintering habitat restoration. The picture that you see at the top of the slide is from a historic overwintering site. And in this case, our volunteers are putting in a second line of eucalyptus to assist with having an area that's protected from wind. So when monarchs are in the area, they can harbor in there. So they can persist throughout the winter when the breeding and migratory season comes around in the spring. So I want to circle back to some more specific resources that you should be aware of, and that is really pretty much tailored to probably what your needs are. I discussed this earlier, and this is the California Department of Food and Agriculture's Healthy Soils Program. I mentioned this in one of the other projects that we had. This one paid for windrows. The Healthy Soils Program, it's administered by the California Department of Food and Agriculture, and the focus of the HSD program is on carbon and climate. Comes about every year, usually opens in the fall and the winter. There generally are individuals as part of organizations that can offer you assistance in the application process or provide you technical assistance if you're awarded funding. So you should really be mindful of that. You can always look up CDFA HSD program information on the web. So, you can Google that or use whatever browser you like to get more information about the program itself. In our case, in our area, which, I consider to be Santa Barbara County and Ventura County, only because we work very, very well with our Rcd in Santa Barbara County. The Healthy Soils Programs pays for soil-based practices like compost and hedgerows. And so you can see this list of projects that were funded ranging anywhere from $20,000, close to $21,000, up to almost $100,000 to do a variety of different projects that, help conserve soil, help build soil health, and help conserve water and all those types of things. So if any of these practices are of interest to you, then just be mindful that the Healthy Soils Program could be an option for you to consider to help you achieve these goals. Similarly, I discussed earlier the SWEEP program. SWEEP is, again, the funding through SWEEP is provided to the California Department of Food and Agriculture, just like HSP. The way that RCDs are involved is that oftentimes we're the ones who can provide you the assistance needed to successfully apply for the program. And then also we can usually assist you with implementation, or we can assist you with other technical resources. Now, unlike HSP, SWEEP has a different focus, and it's on water and energy. So while HSP focused more on soil-based practices, the SWEEP program focuses on practices that conserve water and reduce energy use. So things like putting in flow meters so you can better schedule your irrigation volumes, soil moisture sensors, and other technologies that allow you to monitor your soil moisture so you have better control of your irrigation timing. And then also, if you have an inefficient pump, then you can get funding to convert over to a more efficient pump. And again, this will help with climate mitigation and energy use reduction. Much like HSP, the SWEEP program opens in fall, winter. So please be mindful of that time frame in this program. And again, you can always do a search, CDFA SWEEP, to get information about when that's opening up. And then I do want to make sure that you are well aware that, I mean, I've been talking about resource conservation districts, but one of our fabulous conservation partners is the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Sometimes it's very confusing because often RCDs and NRCS are in the same office, and you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them. And so oftentimes people think we're the NRCS, or they think they're the RCD. But just be aware that we're excuse me, we're separate organizations with similar conservation missions. So RCDs are local unit of governments. NRCS is, I'll call it a division of the United States Department of Agriculture, which is a federal level entity, of course. So the great thing about NRCS is that they are local, even though they are funded through USDA and ultimately through the Farm Bill. But they're local, so they understand your needs just like we do. One of the more popular programs that NRC has is their Environmental Quality and Incentives Program, or EQIP. EQIP is great because it addresses any number of different resource concerns. If you're interested in EQIP, you can apply year-round. It's on sort of a rolling basis. So if for whatever reason you get in late, you can apply for the first round. You'll come up for consideration in the second round. There's going to be a local RCD, local NRCS office somewhere around you. So you know, ours is in Oxnard Harbor here in Ventura County, and our local district conservationist or local DC is Don Athen. So if you're in this area, this information is relevant to you. If you're not in our area, however, again, look up NRCS and find the nearest office next to you and get in contact with your local district conservationist. So I am nearing the end of my presentation. I've already run over, I think, quite a bit. So if you're interested in learning more about financial and technical assistance, please feel free to email me. There's my email information there. Or reach out to a local RCD if I'm just outside your area. You can reach out to your local RCD also and sign up for their newsletter. That'll keep you aware of upcoming opportunities. As I indicated earlier, please be mindful of CDFA opportunities. A great way of knowing what's coming is to sign up for their notifications. Reach out to your local NRCS. Sorry, I can say NRCD. Reach out to your local NRCS, your local district conservationist. See if you can get some information about EQIP and to start the conversation about your resource concerns. If you have a local farm bureau, please sign up for that, their newsletter, so you can keep abreast of what they're up to. And then if you have a cooperative extension office near you, please make sure to reach out to them as well. They can offer you, technical support. They can help you figure out what might be going on in terms of your operations. If you've got pest issues, or if you've got, leaf chlorosis or something, they can help steer you in the right direction to address those challenges. Meanwhile, please help us help you. It's good for you to reach out to us with some specific operational needs in mind, so that we can sort of start a conversation about that and then go from there. So give some consideration to what you feel your operational needs are, where you want to be in another year, another 2 years. And it's not just sort of operational needs. You should only focus on it. Please be mindful of what your environmental goals are. Maybe you want to do a little bit more pollinator habitat. Maybe you want to build up your soil health. In addition to be able to use some of the standard conservation practices to, reduce your irrigation needs. And then ultimately, what are your land stewardship objectives? I mean, how do you want the land to look? And what are the kinds of things that you would like to do to achieve that vision as a land steward? These are all things that can sort of help us understand where you are now, where you want to be later. Going back to that previous example, by understanding where you are and where you need to be, and what your challenges are, we can be better positioned to be able to stack those resources in the most sensible way to get you to your final goals for your operation. And so with that, I've gone on half an hour, much longer than I probably should have. I apologize about that. But again, first, thank you so much, everyone, for your service. I'm very appreciative of that. And I also just want to thank you for your time and your attention and your patience. Sitting through this long Zoom call or this Zoom meeting. I hopefully will be able to join, as I indicated earlier. Feel free to reach out again. As I said, make sure you're reaching out to other conservation partners, not just the Rcds. And so with that, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to try to do this gracefully, but I'm not sure that I'll be able to do that. So thank you, everyone, again for your time and attention.
Wonderful. So thank you, Jamie, so much for sharing that. I see that you're actually available to answer any questions. I'm looking. Hi, Jamie.
Hi. I'm here.
I know you're joining us from the field, so we appreciate you doing that. I'm looking through the questions. It looks like Jose asked, who is Jamie's counterpart in San Diego County? And so we shared a link with Jose on how to locate his local conservation district. But did you have any other comments about that, Jamie, on who is the Jamie for San Diego County?
That's a great question, and I wish I knew or could remember the name. But my recollection is that the RCD of Greater San Diego is very, very active. And so they're going to be a fantastic resource. And so I wish I could remember the name of the gal that I interacted with at the last CARCD conference, but I just can't. But please, Jose, make sure to reach out to them. You won't be disappointed. They're a very good RCD.
Wonderful. And we, like I said, we put the link in the chat. So if you have any question about where your local RCD office is located, you can please look in the chat and click on the link and you can locate that, as well as Jamie talked about the SWEET program, the EQUIP program, the Healthy Soils program. We put links to all of that in the chat, so you all can take a look there. It looks like I'm not seeing any other questions. So unless you had any additional information you wanted to share, Jamie, or if anyone else had any questions to ask.
No, I think that it's good to start simple. So I think starting with the Healthy Soils program, or starting with the State Water Efficiency and Enhancement program, or simply just communicating with your local DC or with your RCD, I think that's a great place to start. Don't wait to have complicated questions. Go ahead and start that communication now, and I think that'll position you well for success. So, I just encourage everybody to reach out just to start the conversation, and it'll steamroll from there, because the RCDs and the NRCS and the cooperative extensions and the farm bureaus, we all work together. And so, if we can't help you with something, then we'll steer you in the right direction to get the help that you need. So that's all I'd like to say about that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It looks like we do have a question from Joffrey Hollenbeck. It says, will the SWEEP program cover studies on wastewater discharge for small farming operations?
Wastewater discharge. So from small farming operations. So would this be agricultural runoff? Is that what the reference is?
Joffrey, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute. Give me one moment and I'll do that. I just have to find you in our chat. Joffrey, there we go.
But what I will say is that SWEEP is a program that funds implementation of conservation practices. So it will not, by its nature, provide funding for any research or data collection, data assessment. And that's not the goal of SWEEP. That said, CDFA does have what are called specialty crop block grants. Specialty crop block grants are grants that do pay for funding for research and practice implementation. In fact, we had a stormwater runoff program that we were lead agency on, working with UC Riverside and our local cooperative extension office. And we looked at best management practices within plasticulture, hoop houses used for raspberry cultivation. And we were doing different agriculturally based practices such as mulch, cover crop, weed barriers to try to see if any of those practices limited the soil erosion caused when water kind of cascades off of the plastic sheathing that protect the raspberries. And so we were able to use that to actually fund research through CDFA. But SWEEP itself is purely implementation. It's not research focused.
Wonderful. And if I remember correctly, does the SWEEP, was it the SWEEP application that opens up in around October? Or was that?
They seem to all open up about the same time, which is why everybody kind of running around all hectic like.
Yeah.
The same time. We're all writing grants, or we're all trying to help with technical assistance and everything else. And I want to make sure that you're not holding me to gospel there.
Okay.
So it does open up, but it around the same time. But I would definitely look back at the web pages for those programs and see when those programs actually did come out and were made available. And then of course that'll be a general timeline, but in the next round they'll have a more specific time for when it'll open, and more importantly, I guess, when it will close. And so you want to make sure to get your application in before it closes.
Absolutely. And maybe we could host another webinar on maybe writing a successful application. So we'll explore that. That'd be really neat. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not seeing, let's see. Oh, yep. Joffrey says yes, in an effort to conserve water or protect local water resources. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think you answered that question very well, Jamie. And we appreciate you sending up video, and we appreciate you joining us. I know you're out working in the field, so we'll let you get back to work, but thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. And again, apologize it went long. And I'll try to make the other Q&As as I can. So thank you for the invitation. And again, as always, to the service members, thank you so much for your service. It's very much appreciated.
Okay. It looks like Jeanette had a few questions for you. Jeanette, did you have some questions for Jamie?
I just had one question for you, Jamie. If you have someone who currently is recycling water, and maybe they have an old system from like the 60s or 70s that's maybe getting like 85% recovery, and they want to install a new system, which now we're getting to the point where we have 0 liquid discharge units. Would part of that be covered under the SWEEP program to put a more efficient unit in?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Unlike HSP, SWEEP doesn't have a prescribed set of practices. The only consideration with SWEEP, however, is that there are quantification tools that you are supposed to use, that you have to use, to be able to indicate how much water you would be saving through a practice. And so there are ways for you to go around that, so to speak. But that's since that's not a traditional, I shouldn't say traditional, since that's not something that can fit easily into that water savings calculator,
Okay.
it would need a little bit of noodling. But like I said, I do think it can be done. It would just require a little bit of finesse and then explanation in the narrative for the application. But if there's going to be a water savings, then it would certainly be something that the SWEEP application review committee would look at.
Okay, and is there a cap on the amount of money for the SWEEP grant?
I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna say it's 100,000 as of last round, but I could be wrong about that. But both the HSP and SWEEP have a cap. One I think was 200,000 and the other was 100,000. And unfortunately, I don't have that paperwork in front of me to remember which one was which.
Okay.
Oh, and I want to circle back to the SWEEP question. So, sorry, my mind's all scattered. Keep in mind that SWEEP also requires a greenhouse gas reduction. And so that would require that there be some kind of a pump involved in that system. So that would be the only caveat is that you would have to have your recycling system with a pump, and maybe that's the recycling pump. I'm not sure, but there has to be some kind of pump, and that pump has to be assessed for its efficiency so that a greenhouse gas emissions reduction can be calculated. Hopefully that makes sense.
Sure does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to let you go. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. We're actually going to let everyone go. We appreciate everyone, signing up and joining us for this webinar. We do have 2 other farm demonstration webinars similar to this coming up in the next month or so. For everyone who has signed up for this one, you will get notified on those farm demonstration events so that you can sign up if you feel like it's something you're interested in. But please feel free to reach out to me directly to ask any questions. If you have any additional questions for our speakers, they have told me that they would be happy to answer those. So you can feel free to email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. And you should already have received it on the Zoom invite, but please reach out to me if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Casey. And thank you for the California Association of Resource Conservation District. They are sponsoring this webinar through a grant that we have with them. So we appreciate that. And thank you, Jamie and Casey, for joining us. And thank you, Randy Ryan, for filming it, for filming Casey's farm. All right, well, you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.